Good morning, all. It's Valerie Ling here. I just got off a wonderful interview with my now friend, Ben from Hope Radio, and we were doing a segment that will air at some stage. But he started his conversation with a really great question, and I know because I have some friends who are like professional friends, but I suppose because I normally talk in the professional spaces about things like burnout and well-being in your work and in what you do, the question generally gets asked of me in terms of, how am I doing? And I automatically assume that it's a professional friend or a friend checking in on my own levels of burnout, for which I'm really, really, really grateful. And it provides me an opportunity to really dig in. But when I answered Ben, as I've been sharing with you here on my on Facebook, that I'm in the process of recalibrating and auditing my own well-being practices because I have been feeling under-resourced. And Ben's question to me is, why do you think that happened? How did you get to this point? And I would ordinarily say that it's quite common for your practices to go up and down in your well-being because we're human beings, right? We are forgetful, we get distracted. So, I'm not generally surprised if my practices fluctuate. But the issue is more, how did I get to the point that I was feeling quite under-resourced, which, that's not a space that we want to be in. And it caught me off guard a little, but I had to reflect and respond. My dog is trying to get my attention to answer the question of what happened and pushing out my podcast. And, there's a lot of like moving parts, as Ben would know, and he's in radio, so pushing out a podcast, me at home, my little home production. And I thought, no, actually, it's not. Like in my world, it's a normal thing for me to be juggling multiple projects, and this period of time is a little bit more hectic. And to give Ben an honest answer, I had to think about it for a little bit. Then I had the answer, which is, well, actually, Ben, it's really sounds kind of silly, but in our family, we've been adjusting to a different lifestyle. My husband and I are, we talk about how we average out in our 50s. I'm not quite 50, but, we're starting to practice what it means to live, in that stage of life, the next chapter of life, if you like, and you're really thinking about our health and what does it mean to infuse some lifestyle things so that we are a little bit more mindful of the wear and tear on our body. And one of the things that we did was to adjust our budget, kind of like to practice, what it'd be like to strip back. Now, by and large, it's been working amazingly. It's as a family, we would have worked out, what are the values, like our budget is guided by, what as a family we want to invest in, and what are some of the things that, we really, like sustainability, for example. So, looking at how we are spending in terms of convenience foods, or, the amount of petrol and all of that we're using. And to be frank, as you would probably be experiencing, cost of living has also gone up, right? So just adjusting that. But what I didn't realize is that I had not really understood how many of the things that I do outside of my home are so essential for my well-being. As an example, when I have time off, I really love just sitting down in the morning with a cup of coffee and then just going, what do I feel like doing today, right? It's part of a playfulness, a fun, a spontaneity, because a lot of my world is responsible and planned and, has an element of high risk, really. And so that's like one of the nicest things that I would do. And very often I just jump in the car and I'd follow that train of thought, like without even thinking, will it involve a meal? Is there coffee? Is there petrol and all of that? And I would just go. And I'd ripped that out of my world, being content with some other things, which I do. So, I've taken up some mindfulness baking, I call it, mindfulness gardening on my day when I'm having time off. But I'm an extrovert and being contained at home is actually more sapping for me. And one of the things I hadn't realized is when I don't just head out, whether it's in the car or, just, one of the things I love doing, for example, is just putting on my walking shoes, my Apple Watch, and my phone in my pocket, nothing else. And I just hit the road like on foot and take public transport and just kind of hop around wherever I feel like going. But I was also being exposed to sunshine, nature sounds, different environment, more observational thinking as well, because I'm watching people as they go along. I'm having a little bit of a giggle with the kids in the checkout, some of the things that they say. All of those things got really stripped back. And so Ben was asking me, do you think it's kind of a thing of we don't realize that we have some values or things that are important to us, even in the way that we do our budgets and we think about how we are, doing our life. And I was like, yeah, and I think it's also an element of self-awareness. There are some things that we may not know about ourselves because we might be a little embarrassed. Like, I said to Ben, I feel a little bit like I'm afraid that I might be judged if I say, one of the most important things in my well-being is to be free from responsibility. I just want to head out on the road. That sounds so frivolous, right? And it's like, that's part of it. I'm not possibly engaging in a level of self-awareness or compassion even to say, well, in all other spaces of my life, I think more about other people, and not because I'm a selfless saint, but if you are prone to burnout, that's just one of your personality factors. You look into other people's needs, you anticipate, you plan, and you put all of your thinking into anticipating. I'll tell you one story that's a bit hilarious. When I discovered this, even at a weird level, I have a tendency when people are sitting at the dining table, I didn't even realize this, but I will monitor whether the glass that they have is positioned in such a way that someone could swipe it off, or I'm monitoring if the fork is a little precariously balanced on the edge there. Like, I didn't even know this, but what happened was, because I constantly adjust things on the table with my family, and I think nobody thinks anything of it, but we had a guest, someone who came, and I kept moving their glass until they basically said, please stop moving my glass. And I thought, I didn't even realize I was doing it. Right, so such a mundane activity like sitting at the dinner table, and I've got a radar, I'm auto-correcting and monitoring without even realizing it. And so some of the well-being practices that I have, they seem and they feel so indulgent, so irresponsible, but that's the point. Need to have a bit of a break. So I wonder for you, what are some well-being things that might have dropped off your radar and your plate, maybe because you thought it was the right thing to do? I'd love to know.